There's an old saying that goes, look before you leap. It has a lot of value. I wonder how much better we'd all do if we applied that saying to everyday life. Let's talk about it. Hey, this is Off the Cuff, and I'm Steve from TorahFamily.org. So, look before you leap. In other words, consider the possible consequences before you take an action. Don't just react out of emotion. Ever stuck your foot in your mouth before? Ever done something you regretted moments or even seconds later? How many times have we typed out a message and hit send only to read that message immediately after we sent it and found a mistake in it? And then, of course, we send another message right away to blame spell check for our mistake. But how often do we do this in life? How often do we say or do something so fast without hardly blinking, only to realize we did something stupid seconds later or even while we're in the middle of saying it? Then, instead of humbling ourselves, we blame someone or something else to make an excuse. But if we would just think it through first, how much better off would we all be? There's a saying that says, Yahweh gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Thus, we should listen twice as much as we speak. This saying actually goes in line with what we see in James chapter 1. James 1:19. My dear brothers, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. For man's anger does not bring about the righteous life that God desires. Everyone should be quick to listen and slow to speak. All too often, pride and arrogance gets in the way because, well, surely, we're not wrong. The next thing you know, the steamroller mentality takes over in us, and we allow emotions to take charge, and we say or do things we know we'll regret later. Why do we do this? Because we don't check ourselves before we act. We don't look before we leap. We get in a hurry to take charge. We rush into it with the mentality of, well, I'll show you. And then our pride won't let us back down. So we keep the rocket launcher in machine gun mode until we get the last word. If you struggle with always wanting to get the last word, or if there's no struggle at all and you're just always driven to get the last word, please see our teaching, Last Man Standing. Now, if you ever enter a conversation with someone of this mentality, please, as I've once heard it said, leave the table if respect isn't being served. In other words, don't stay in a conversation with someone who feels it's their mission to change your mind at any cost. These are normally the people who aren't happy until they hear their opinion coming out of your mouth. They forget the fact that it's the Holy Spirit who changes people's minds, not them. The goal here is to make sure we aren't the ones doing that. We need to slow down before we act. Proverbs 29:20. Do you see a man who speaks in haste? There is more hope for a fool than for him. Did you hear that? Let's read it one more time. Do you see a man who speaks in haste? There is more hope for a fool than for him. And what about this one? Proverbs 12:18. Reckless words pierce like a sword, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Reckless words? Yes, reckless words. Words spoken without considering their consequence. Then we have Proverbs 13:16. Every prudent man acts out of knowledge, but a fool exposes his folly. Please, Make sure to look before you leap. Refrain from reckless words. Hit pause before you automatically hit send. And remember, if you aren't open to being wrong, then you aren't committed to knowing truth. You're just committed to airing your opinion. Proverbs 18:2. A fool finds no pleasure in understanding, but delights in airing his own opinions. Now, not always, but a lot of times, reckless words are spoken because of memories of past hurts. We have to focus on not becoming the person who hurt us. While that's never our intention by default, it's usually not that uncommon from what happens. Give those hurts over to Yahweh and focus on becoming more like Yeshua, walking the way He walked. Don't make today the past you regret tomorrow. The needed change starts in the heart. Thus, what we read in Joel 2:13. Rend your heart and not your garments. Return to Yahweh your God, for He is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and abounding in love, and He relents from sending calamity. Notice the traits of the Father towards us. He is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and abounding in love, and He relents from sending calamity. Do you possess these traits towards other people? Think about it. Do these traits represent your responses to those who differ with you? If not, imagine if Yahweh possessed your traits towards you. No, we can't live in regret of the past. We have to live in hope of the future. That's determined by our actions in the constant present. And again, change starts in the heart. At the same time, we have to remember we can help others grow while working on ourselves at the same time. Refuse to wait until someone else or even you yourself regard yourself worthy of impacting others. This is a journey. We'll never arrive until Yeshua takes us home. Never. In fact, people will receive your words of advice much more if you say, "Hey, I've struggled with this from time to time as well." Instead of feeling everyone's looking down on them, it lets them know they're not alone. We all have that innate ability to blame our actions on someone or something else. But when it comes right down to it, we're the ones responsible for our actions. We make our own decisions. We can't blame them on others or situations we've been through. I once heard a story about two sons of an alcoholic. One struggled through life as a drunk. The other became a successful, ambitious businessman. When asked, "Why are you the way you are?" both responded with, "My father was an alcoholic." We can let life situations motivate us to something better or drag us down. While the temptation to blame others is always there, the bottom line is the choice is always ours. Remember, if we don't correct ourselves before we act, the Holy Spirit will correct us after we act. Life's too short to live in regret. Choose wisely. Let's not get in a hurry. Let's check ourselves before we act. Let's hit pause and check before we hit send and regret. Life will go much smoother if we do. Well, that's all I have. Think about it. Pray about it. But more than anything, be a doer of the word and not a hearer only. Until next time, Shalom.